can you give us a quick example of how you approach flow? So, like something going on in your life and just how you've structured your life so we can bring it to life in the context of how you're showing up?
For sure. So one of the most important things is obviously flow follows focus, right? You need uninterrupted concentration for flow. Schedule big periods of uninterrupted concentration. I get up every day at 4 a.m. I'm not saying everybody should get up at 4 a.m., but I get up at 4 a.m. and from 4 a.m. till about 8:30 is when I do most of my writing. That's the bulk of my writing because writing demands flow, it demands focus, and nobody calls me at that period of time. I turn my phone off. I turn my email off. My cell phone's not even with me. That sort of thing. I actually have blackout curtains and kind of white noise filters, everything I can to drive focus and help me pay attention. So it sounds like such a simple thing, but uninterrupted periods of concentration, 90-minute blocks, if you can schedule them, are fantastic. And I think it's got to be the most important thing I do.
Right on. Can you tell us about the back end of that? Because I too get up super early and I go to bed super early. So, what do you do the night before such that you can wake up at 4 feeling great?
Well, I go to bed early. And there are, so the most important thing I think is when I end my day, I end my work day, I want to start. I'm going to back you into this. Years ago, I was reading an interview with Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and he said something just absolutely brilliant. He said, I always stop writing at the time I'm most excited.
Hmm.
And I thought to myself, well, that's ridiculous because the time you're most excited, you've got your ideas are flow. Why would you stop then? What I realized is that usually by the time you notice that you're most excited, you've only, for me, just put it in writing terms, I've only got a couple paragraphs left in me.
Mhm.
Those paragraphs are not worth trading the excitement for. I would rather wake up the next day fired up already. My brain's excited. I've already got some of that focus, some of that play energy. And I start by, reading and editing the stuff I wrote the day before because it gets me fired up again. So by the time I'm facing the blank page, I've already got excitement in the body is actually norepinephrine and dopamine. They're both focusing chemicals. They're both flow triggers. So I try to end my day at the point I am most excited about kind of what's coming the next day. I always make a list so I know and I don't have to wonder what is the order of my day. One of the things I discovered is that most professionals are pretty good at low grade flow states. We can focus. We know how to, if you're successful, you've learned how to focus as a general rule. What trips people up is the transitions between tasks.
Mm.
So what I do is I have a list and I don't allow myself to get tripped up by the transitions. When I'm going from task to task, if I am not as focused as I want to be, I will stop. I'll do kind of mindfulness breathing meditations to bring my focus back into the present. If that doesn't work, I will do 5 minutes of physical exercise and then I will come back and I've edited out the transitions between things. I try to keep my focus, you know, crisp, that way as well.
So good. It's so simultaneously genius and mundane.
Well,
Um,
that's the problem with the flow
yeah,
stuff is that when you really look under the hood, ultimate human performance, because our neurobiology, when it plays out in the real world, it's not that complicated,
yeah, yeah. But
right?
it's
These things are,
yeah, the consistent application of the obvious, right? And I think it's the depth of maturity to see. Look, I'm not going to get all of this achieved in one night, and it makes no sense. For me, the biggest shift has been I stop my day, digital sunset. Sun goes down, I'm done. All electronics off, everything's done. And for exactly the reason you described of, I know how good it feels to wake up feeling all those chemicals within me and just to crush it in the morning. And I've had a great day before the family wakes up. That's awesome, and I would do nothing to jeopardize that. Yet that took me forever to get to the awareness on. And I think creating those boundaries, stopping when we're exciting, leaving some in the tank, and honoring consistency over an artificial intensity that leads to snapping and burnout.
and you gotta, I don't think everybody is as lucky as us in that they have schedules where they can get up super early and just do it that way. And if that's not the case, you need to have conversations with spouses and bosses and coworkers. They need to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Most people get it. You're like, look, I'm going to be 500% more productive. Leave me alone for a few hours, right?
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing right now. Have the conversations out loud It sounds, again, so simple, makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then create the time blocks and just and then again baby step it. We're not waving a magic wand here and suddenly you're in one long four-stage flow state all the time, right?
No.
It's the same iterative 4%. Just get 4% better today. Compound that over a year, you're going to be way better. Give it a decade and let's see where you're at. It's going to be extraordinary, right?
I'll put it in really concrete terms. So for me, with writing, 350 words is how much I can produce, no sweat, under, no toil conditions, on any circumstances. I haven't slept for 3 days. I can still give you 350 good words. Don't worry about it. 500 words, though, that extra 150 words is what happens when a full idea, well expressed, takes about 350 words, I've discovered.
Hmm.
You can go longer for sure and turn it into a chapter or whatever, but that by the time you get to 500 words, if I'm moving the reader through what I'm talking about, I've linked a second idea together.
Hmm.
And that forces me to stretch. I have to write that transition. I have to make that connection. And on top of the fact that it makes me stretch and it makes me a little uncomfortable, which 600 words say, I usually have to have some pattern recognition to bridge that gap. So by forcing myself to stretch, I'm also forcing myself to make a connection between ideas in an unusual way, which is going to kick more dopamine into my system. And I can end up writing 1,000 words, 2,000 words, but all I'm going for is 500 words.
If what you've heard on Flow Research Collective Radio has been helpful, please consider doing us a solid and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this. Reviews help us connect to a wider audience so we can get these peak performance principles out to more people.